Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your boy, the SeanDavieWay Show. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe on the way in. Tap that bell if you would like to be notified of all of our future content. Today, I bring you an update on surviving Chris Stokes. As of recently, Raz B did another viral live, which is now deleted, of him apologizing to Chris Stokes and his family for everything that he feels that he's taken them through, and also reaching out to old friends and relationships that he feels that he had part in tarnishing. Raz B has had a lot of head spinning, including mine, but I am not shocked, and I understand his fans are, but again, I am not. Why? It's because victims do this often. They teeter-totter. One moment they blame themselves for what happened to them, and then they go back to blaming their abuser, and then they go back to blaming themselves again. So I feel that Raz B is back to blaming himself. He feels that, hey, this is all my fault. If I wouldn't have did ... then maybe I wouldn't be put in this position. So again, I believe that Raz B is blaming himself for what's going on due to how his life has turned out. I think Raz B feels like he is a failure in different ways, that his success has been stunted, and that came from his cousin. So again, the only way in Raz B's mind to rid this energy is by apologizing and making Chris Stokes seem like a beacon of light instead of a cave of darkness. Let's get into Raz B's apology for the people that did not hear it, and then I'll continue with the update of this commentary.
And I'm just so scared of the pain. And now that I'm older, I understand things a lot different, bro. I'm telling you, I'm telling everybody, man. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm sorry, man. I'm fucking sorry, dude. I'm sorry, man. You have people put things in your head and run around with false narratives. And I told my family and all my friends, I just want to make everything right.
Yeah.
I'm mature.
Yeah.
I'm grown.
Yeah.
And I just want to make everything right with all my family, with all my friends.
Yeah.
Anybody that I've wronged, I would just want to fix everything.
Yeah.
I just want to fix everything, bro.
Yeah. That's a part of growth and maturity, beloved.
This message is from my cousin Chris Stokes. I'm the prodigal son. I have made a lot of mistakes, not even knowing. I am truly, truly, truly sorry. I feel like, cousin, I'm an innocent bystander. Ricky taught me so many things, and it's like Ricky really had my head in some crazy places. And the older I've gotten and learned, my family is my family, and my family has always been good to me. You've always poured life into me, and right now I need you more than ever.
Have it, Raz B apologized to his cousin Chris Stokes for all of the alleged allegations that he placed on him, but I do want you to pay attention to the fact that Raz B pointed out his brother Ricky Romance in said apology and stated how Ricky may have led him astray. So we will elaborate more on that after this update. Last night, 11 hours ago, Raz B continued apologizing with this post on IG. Raz B's quote, "I'm a made man. Here it goes, truth. Mature grown DeMario after countless counseling. I was abused by my brother and others. They all used and abused me like a rag doll. By the time my cousin took custody over me, I was a mess. He was not my enemy. I focused all my pain, frustration, and anger built up from my past and took it out on my cousin. I never understood why. Maybe because B2K broke up and he was no longer in my life. Chris was never my pain. He was my protector, my peace, and my friend. People like Steve and other terrible things in Cleveland I told him about. Ricky forcing me to do things. Those are things I should have dealt with. Like all the monsters in my life that actually did these things to me. Chris was never that guy. I made the world think he was. I remember why my cousin fought so hard to save me because I needed Chris. And then I attacked the only person who helped me. It's time. Let the world know why. The truth. Love you, my cuz. Chris, I pray you continue to be my peace and protector. I miss you. P.S. MH has always been my favorite artist. Immature all day. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking right now, what the F is going on? Well, let me explain. I've been dealing with this situation with Raz B and B2K and Chris Stokes for quite some time. So I can break down what Raz B is saying because again, that's why I said I'm not surprised. I fully understand what Raz B is saying, but he is removing accountability from Chris, and Chris still needs to be held accountable for what he did to Raz. That is not gone. But again, I will break this down so you can understand where Raz B is coming from. Let's start at the beginning. So when Raz says that he was essayed by brother and others, they all used and abused me like a rag doll. When Raz B and his brother Ricky Romance was growing up, their mother was suffering from drug use and they were not being taken care of the best. So a lot of people had them. And in the process of that, Raz B was M-worded and SA'd by a few different people, okay? And families, sometimes it's with multiple people. It's not just one person that does this to you, it's many. Let's start by his brother, Ricky Romance. Like he said, I was abused by my brother, okay? He says that in this post. Raz B states that Ricky Romance forced him to do things, and that is absolutely true. In past interviews that I've done with Ricky Romance here on the SeanDavieWay show, here on YouTube, Ricky agreed and admitted the same thing. Now let me break that down. Ricky Romance states that he was the original member of the group Immature, which is partially true. He was put into the band, but he did not last. He was only in the band for a short time. So with Ricky being in the band for a short time, while he was there, he alleges that Chris Stokes M-worded him and had the Immature members shower with one another. Let's get into that clip.
This is the chat. He's explaining that he was one of the original members of Immature. So I believe it was you, LDD, and Romeo.
No, it was the original members of Immature is Tyrone, Imani, and Jerome and Romeo. After Tyrone's mom took him out of the group, she took him out of the group because she found out some shit, right? She found out that she knew some shit about Chris, and she pulled Tyrone out the group. Imani, I think the same thing happened. It was some weird shit going on back then. You know, that's when shit was starting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only person that stayed down was Jerome. Romeo. He was the only one that stayed down. His parents, you know, they allowed him to stay. They allowed him to stay in the group.
So
you know what I'm saying? So he's the original group member. So Chris.
Who was the one right here?
Okay, here we go. Okay, you working. That's Don in the middle. Don ended up getting with a girl, my friend Julie, her sister. I went to school with the girl he's with now, Don, right? Don, Filipino kid, he was put in the group. Let me explain this. Okay. So the original Immature was Romeo, okay? And that was the age that we started right there. It was Romeo in the white shorts, right? Him, Tyrone, and Imani, okay? When Tyrone and Imani got taken out of the group, Chris and Taz, they replaced both of them with Marcus and Don. Don, his family was
Filipino, you know what I'm saying? And they was big on their education, you know what I'm saying? Based off of, where they come from, you know what I'm saying? So they wasn't about to let Chris pull him out of school and do that homeschooling shit and all that, you know. And then I believe that they suspected some shit as well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they pulled Don out right after House Party 2 was shot. So Don didn't even get a chance to like attend the premieres and be a part of and appreciate all that shit and roll around as a group and be a part of Immature and all that. He was like, that was all taken from him. Don went off to go, do some other shit in life. Don don't even want to talk about this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know his story. And I've always wanted to talk to him. But Monty never really wanted to talk. Monty, just said some shit happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Rome, like I said, Rome has been there since day one, man. Since day one. And that's why it hurts my heart because I have so much love for Rome because he know we the original niggas. Like, we really been around longer than everybody.
Right. So you say Taz and Chris had put you into the group.
Say it again?
Taz and Chris put you into Immature?
Okay. Yeah. So after Don got taken out of the group, I was the replacement. And I remember us doing a show. We did some type of event with Burger King where we were giving out free Whoppers in the community. And I went and I was out. Chris dressed me up. You know what I'm saying? They dressed me up basically like Half Pint. You know what I'm saying? As a replacement. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, people gonna know it's that, it's not me. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I don't know all the dance moves on the stage, right? So it was just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because knowing what I know now about the industry, how you can replace members and all that, I didn't understand that as a kid. But I had a chance to actually go and do that event with Burger King, and we gave out free Whoppers and shit like that. And then, Chris made me stand on the side of the stage. I remember that. Rome and Marcus had to perform by themselves, and I had to stand on the side of the stage because I didn't know the dance moves. So that was a great experience that I had. You gotta
take showers with the other boys. We had to go to Capitol Records and shit. So, it's like all that little shit that my brother was introduced to, that shit was brought to me.
So after that happened, Ricky plotted against Chris Stokes. This is what Raz is admitting. So I want people to let that register. Because after Ricky got kicked out of the group Immature, he knew that Raz B was talented, and he knew that Chris Stokes would eventually come and get Raz because Raz could sing, dance, and other things. So before Chris came, Ricky trained Raz B, meaning he SA'd Raz B. He SA'd his own brother. He showed Raz B how to masturbate and other things so that he could do those things for Chris. So he literally taught Raz B what Chris Stokes liked and what Chris Stokes wanted to see, just like the R. Kellys of the world, how allegedly the parents of some of the young ladies trained them and prepared them for what R. Kelly liked. He did the same thing to his own brother because he knew that Chris would find Raz B talented and attractive to his own family. So Ricky took Raz B to Chris Stokes for Chris Stokes to sign. So he literally set Chris Stokes up by preparing Raz B to basically give himself to Chris Stokes. And that's basically what happened. With Ricky being scorned because he did not make it in the group Immature, that's when Ricky came out with the allegations after. Same thing with Raz B. When Raz B got kicked out of the group B2K, he did the same exact thing. But when he was doing that, who was he with? He was with Ricky. Ricky coerced Raz B into coming out. That was his leverage. The leverage was the abuse. So Ricky coerced Raz B into getting abused by Chris Stokes so that he could coerce him out of money and the majority of his income after removing Raz B from the group. So it was kind of like blackmail, if you will. And that is why Raz B is so messed up in the head, is because a lot of the things that they did was deliberate. So it's hard for Raz B to feel like, hey, this wasn't my fault. This was Chris's fault, because Chris setting up Marcus Houston to sleep with me while I'm a teenager, and all of that, and watched it happen. And then Chris Stokes essaying me himself and whatnot. I kind of prepared myself for all of these things to happen. So I did set him up in ways. So it's hard for him to define that line to state that it doesn't matter that he was plotting or anything like that. Chris Stokes is an adult, and Chris Stokes is his family. Chris Stokes should have never let anything like that happen. That is Chris Stokes' decision to cross that line and do what he did with Raz B and Ricky Romance. None of that stuff should have ever happened. But it's hard for Raz B to place the blame fully on Chris when he knows that he had a hand in this as well. So that's why he is so tormented and hurt by all of these things that have happened, because he came into the situation with Chris, and Chris loved on him and gave him a different life, basically adopted him, got custody of him and his brother because of everything his mom was going through. And they just didn't want to go back to Cleveland, especially Raz B, because he has so many demons and traumatic situations that happened there to him. He didn't want any part of it. So Chris Stokes coming to get him and taking him to California, putting him in this massive group and all of that, it was extremely life-changing. But it does not excuse what Chris and Ricky Romance did. In my opinion, Ricky Romance needs to go to jail too. Ricky Romance needs to be brought to justice as well. And again, it's such a tricky situation with Raz B, because again, he was a part of it. So it's like, well, shouldn't Raz B be held accountable in some way, shape, or form too? But at the same time, it's like, he was a teenager. He was a kid. Chris Stokes was an adult. He should have never let anything like that happen. So it doesn't matter if somebody was trying to set Chris up. You should not have took the bait, Chris. You're still disgusting. You still need to go to jail. And so does Ricky. Ricky is pathetic. A sorry excuse for a brother, a man, and a family member. That is why I cut Ricky Romance off, because I found out the truth. I looked in between the lines, because Ricky on my show tried to make it seem as if it was something innocent. He was a kid. He didn't know what he was doing. Ricky knew exactly what he was doing. He used his own brother as a pawn to get back at his cousin for kicking him out of the group of Immature. So that is when the energy came on to Raz B. He's an innocent, within the situation. They're just hustling, trying to do what they need to do. But to hustle your own family, to set up your own family member to hurt and SAU just so you can make a life for yourself is a lot. And again, it also explains why Raz B is in the situation that he's in, that he's not gaining or prospering out of this situation, because you got a lot of dirt too. You got a lot of skeletons in your closet as well. So this is a mess. It literally is, but I am here to clean it up. I am not trying to condemn Ricky Romance or anything like that, Raz B's brother. I'm not. I'm just simply stating the truth. The truth is, I'm going to play a clip, and in this clip, you hear Ricky states that he brought Raz B to Chris Stokes, and he did not protect him how he should. He did not plan it out thoroughly. He brought Raz B, but what he did not expect is that Chris Stokes was going to take over. Raz B was technically supposed to be Ricky's like little mule, if you will. His not protege, but more so of property. So he felt like Raz B's connection into the group of B2K, which is him, if I stick around and let Chris SA him, then I can control the narrative by knowing the secret. So I get to stay around and manage Raz B and have his career be partially mine, kind of living vicariously through him while spending his money and whatnot and getting side deals with Chris because of these secrets that I know. But that's where the plan went awry, is that Chris Stokes has a takeover spirit and wants to control everything. So instead of keeping Raz B around with the secrets that Raz B knows, he got rid of all of the problem makers like Demario, which is Raz B, his brother Ricky, J-Bug, Little Fizz. He got rid of all of the people that could come forward and say what happened. He wanted to isolate the truth tellers so that when this comes out, it has no validity because their voices are smaller, because they're more so forgotten about. That's why the other members of B2K like Omarion, J-Bug, and Little Fizz still ended up working with Chris Stokes and keeping the secret, realizing that they were being blackballed. So to protect their career, they had to protect the secret. When B2K broke up, Raz B was listening to his brother, Ricky Romance, at the time, and that's when all of the allegations started to come forward. Ricky Romance was the spearheader behind Raz B coming forward. So when Raz got kicked out the group, that's when Ricky was like, yeah, it's my time. Now it's my time for me to come in, and the abuse that I put on to Raz B so that he can learn what to do with Chris. Now it's time for us to come forward with everything that has happened. But at the same time, Ricky didn't want to take any accountability. He wanted to push it all on Chris Stokes, which is Raz B's dilemma. Raz B's dilemma is like, well, we had everything to do with this too, because Ricky, you taught me how to do these things. So when I got around Chris, I could do them. And here's where this clip comes into where Ricky did not protect Raz, and all of this stuff started to come out. Even the conversation with Chris Stokes on the phone. I'm going to play these clips again of Ricky stating he didn't protect Raz, and Raz B and Ricky having a conversation with Chris Stokes on the phone, and Chris Stokes admitting that he is no longer like that anymore. He does not do that. He is a different person, which means all of this is a very messed up situation.
Yet I took my brother over to Chris, you know what I'm saying, and I didn't protect him like I should have, you know. Yet I took my brother over to Chris, you know what I'm saying, and I didn't protect him like I should have, you know.
What I'm trying to tell you is that ain't me. That was up years ago. I don't do that no more. I go sit like the bottom line is that I don't feel like getting on the phone fussing with my cousin.
Nigga, I didn't call to fuss with you.
I just don't do that in my life no more. That's what I'm saying. I'm a whole. You haven't been in my life. You were in my life before, Ricky. If you was around me now, you go, what?
Coming into the chat, he's explaining that he was one of the original members of Immature. So I believe it was you, LDD, and Romeo.
No, it was the original members of Immature is Tyrone, Imani, and Jerome and Romeo. After Tyrone's mom took him out of the group, she took him out of the group because she found out some shit, right? She found out that she knew some shit about Chris, and she pulled Tyrone out the group. Imani, I don't know, I think the same thing happened. It was some weird shit going on back then. You know, that's when shit was starting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only person that stayed down was Jerome. Romeo. He was the only one that stayed down. His parents, you know, they allowed him to stay in the group.
So
you know what I'm saying? So he's the original group member. So Chris,
who was the one right here?
Okay, there we go. Okay, you working. That's Don in the middle. Don ended up getting with a girl, my friend Julie, her sister. I went to school with the girl he's with now, Don, right? Don, Filipino kid, he was put in the group. Let me explain this. Okay. So the original Immature was Romeo, okay? And that was the age that we started right there. It was Romeo in the white shorts, right? Him, Tyrone, and Imani, okay? When Tyrone and Imani got taken out of the group, Chris and Taz, they replaced both of them with Marcus and Don. Don, his family was Filipino, you know what I'm saying? And they was big on their education, you know what I'm saying? You know, based off of, you know, where they come from, you know what I'm saying? So they wasn't about to let Chris pull him out of school and do that homeschooling shit and all that, you know. And then I believe that they suspected some shit as well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they pulled Don out right after House Party 2 was shot. So Don didn't even get a chance to like attend the premieres and be a part of and appreciate all that shit and roll around as a group and be a part of Immature and all that. He was like, that was all taken from him. You know, Don went off to go, you know, do some other shit in life. Don don't even want to talk about this shit. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know his story. And I've always wanted to talk to him. But Monty never really wanted to talk. Monty, you know, just said some shit happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Rome, like I said, Rome has been there since day one, man. Since day one. And that's why it hurts my heart because I have so much love for Rome because he know we the original niggas. Like, we really been around longer than everybody.
Right. So you say Taz and Chris had put you into the group.
Say it again?
Taz and Chris put you into Immature?
Okay. Yeah. So after Don got taken out of the group, I was the replacement. And I remember us doing a show. We did some type of event with Burger King where we were giving out free Whoppers in the community. And I went and I was out. Chris dressed me up. You know what I'm saying? They dressed me up like basically like half pint. You know what I'm saying? As a replacement. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, people gonna know it's that, you know, like it's not me. You know what I'm saying? Plus, I don't know all the dance moves on the stage, right? So it was just crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because knowing what I know now about the industry, how you can replace members and all that, I didn't understand that as a kid. But I had a chance to actually go and do that event with Burger King, and we gave out free Whoppers and shit like that. And then, you know, Chris made me stand on the side of the stage. I remember that. Rome and Marcus had to perform by themselves, and I had to stand on the side of the stage because I didn't know the dance moves. So that was a great experience that I had. You gotta bring me back or something like that. Mm-hmm. Or MCA, I think it was Capitol Records. And so I remember we all had to hop in the shower together, and I just remember it was like fucking 3 or 4 of us in the shower. It was like fucking all the current members of Immature. And I just remember us sword fighting with our dicks. You know, in a fucking shower. You know what I mean? And I was like, now that I think about that shit, I'm like, what the fuck was that? You know, and then, you know.
Was that something that you guys were doing, or were you being led to do it, or how did that?
I don't know. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. But, you know, shit, when Chris started to, when that nigga started to say, he showed us how to jack each other off, talking about I jack you off, you jack me off. I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't know. I really didn't know what that shit was.
So would he do that with you guys alone, or would he do it like in a group setting with you guys?
He mostly always do. He mostly do it alone. Chris will take you in a room and you'll have your special time with him. Mm-hmm.
And at what age did this start?
Okay, so my cousin Chris, so right across from Universal Studios, it's a park. No, it's a right across from Universal Studios. It's a train station in there, Metro train station. Mm-hmm. But before that train station was there many years ago, it was an actual high-rise luxury apartment complex right there off the 101 freeway off of Lancashire. My cousin Smooth, Chris's sister, she had an apartment like downstairs, and then Chris was like in the one apartment upstairs. So that was before he got the house, and it started there. Whatever, because Smooth was already out at that time. So, you know, Smooth had already she was already out with You've Been Played, the Menace to Society soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. So did that started. So did the abuse start before you were put into Immature, or did it start after?
Oh, before I was an Immature.
Okay, so is that why you feel like he put you into the group? It's because he had all you already basically like knew what was going on.
I think once you like you get once you've been initiated, once he know he can like fondle you and shit like that, then it's like then you're initiated.
Mm-hmm.
So like imagine what Marcus's girl went through.
Right. Because
I'm sure she already went through some shit where Marcus brought her around Chris and allowed Chris to say sexual little things or whatever to see that she's okay with it. And then once Chris finds out that shit's cool, then it's like, oh yeah, she's okay to be your girlfriend. Yeah, you should marry her. You know what I mean? Some weird ass shit. I don't know if he still operates like that all these years later.
Mm-hmm.
But once you kind of set in your ways, and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So when this was happening, Raz B explained that Chris had some type of custody over him. So did he have custody of you too?
Nah, what happened was my stepdad had fucking turned my mom out on drugs. My mom was using drugs at the time.
Mm-hmm.
For a couple of years. She had went into an addiction, but she's sober now. Been almost 20 years.
Congratulations to her.
Thank you. And she's doing really well. Could you ask me that question again? My mind just went blank.
Yeah, no problem. So Raz B explained, like, we're going on tour and stuff in that nature, that in order for him to go, him being so young, that Chris has some type of custody over him or guardianship over him.
Yeah. Well, as an artist, when you come in the entertainment industry, you have to you got to sign a document. You got to give somebody, your parent got to give permission for the managers to move you around, especially if you're a minor. The label, the record label, they have documents that these young kid artists have to sign. Their parents have to sign these documents on behalf of these kids so that they can be even signed to the label. And see, that's a whole nother conversation why we going after these big ass networks.
We will be back. There is a lot more to explain. Again, I understand why Raz B came forward and stated this information to truly clear his conscience. He has stated what his cousin has done to him, and I do believe that it all did happen. I believe it's just a victim retracting because he's realizing that a lot of things may not be real that his brother put in his mind, which is maybe Raz B's feeling like, did Chris really do that to me because he wanted to? Or did I entice him? Because if you look back in the day, Raz B was very friendly with Chris Stokes, especially on set of music videos and things like that. The creating of You Got Served, the movie, they were very, very close. So was Raz B feeling guilty now that, did I entice him, that I egg him on, I lead him on to hurt me and do these things to me? I'm responsible for them. He didn't seek me out. I sought him out. I think that's where a lot of this hurt and trauma and back and forth goes. So again, Ricky Romance, you have a lot to do with this, mister. And I think you have a lot more to explain. But until then, I love you all. Until the next show, pray for Raz B. Justice for Raz B. Justice for Quentin Tarver. I love you all. Bye.